It's my great privilege and pleasure to be interviewing Christopher Bailey of Burberry for Woolmark. How important do you think early days are? You went to the Royal College.
Yes. The thing that I cherished the most was the diversity of the people that I worked with. You know, you were working with filmmakers, graphic designers, industrial designers. Design school for me was kind of a real eye-opener on really what design meant, not just learning the craft of design.
So would it be going too far to say that you see yourself as a designer rather than a fashion designer?
Yes, and I've always related much more to design than fashion. But, you know, I guess we all specialise at something, and, you know, I ended up specialising in fashion.
What sort of percentage of, say, the winter collection we've just seen was wool?
It's a high percentage. There's the functional side of wool, and there's the aesthetic side of wool, and also the diversity of what you can do with wool. You know, it's number one, it's a natural fibre, so it's a living, breathing fibre. So very comfortable. It keeps you warm in the winter, and, you know, helps you to stay cool in the summer. You can do many, many different things with wool. It's a very versatile material, and also you can design many things into wool. You know, with different weaves, different colours, different twists, different things that you can kind of creatively do with wool.
But to me, you've had a marvellous sort of growing apprenticeship. Tom Ford, Rosemary Brown,
Donna Cowan before that.
Donna Cowan before that. I mean, this is a roll call of honour. What do you think young people can get out of, say, working with someone like Tom?
It gave me an insight into how to do things properly. You know, and I've always kept a very open mind, and, you know, I try to live with my eyes open. It's very easy when you think you know your job to be closed and to kind of, and I've always throughout my whole career tried to be open to different ideas and thoughts. I've been in an incredibly privileged situation where I've had these real role models like Donna Cowan and Rosemary and Tom and Angela. You know, what you can get from those people in terms of the nourishment and nurturing is, you know, it's been immense for me.
Whenever I come here, I'm struck by how young all of the people who work here are.
I always talk about the contradictions at Burberry, because we're an old company. It's 160 years old. But it's a very young energy, and, you know, whether that's a young team or just a young way of thinking. You know, I like getting things done, and I like energy, and I like kind of people enjoying each other, and, you know, so we try to create an environment of people that are stimulating each other and getting the most out of what we can do at Burberry.
What time do you get in the morning?
Just on average...
before 8 or before?
Before 8.
What time do you normally leave at night?
I usually try to leave by 8.
So that's a long day.
Yeah.
At which point, now you do 2 jobs, 2 very big jobs.
Yeah.
At which point do you slot in the bread and butter designing?
First of all, I've never really defined it as 2 jobs. I can see it's absolutely, there are 2 different responsibilities, but I don't class it as 2 jobs because they're so interlinked and intertwined. But in terms of kind of the pure creative, I don't have a set time of day that I prefer. My approach has always been, whatever I'm doing, I have to do it 100%. And it's just ingrained in me in a way of working. And because my days are so diverse, you know, if I'm doing this, I'm here 100%. I'm not thinking about anything else at all. And I open that box and I give it 100%. And then as soon as it's over, I have to close that box and I go into another box and open it again.
That's quite a gift, to be able to come out of a difficult design meeting and then go in and talk to people or whatever without that still niggling in the back of your head.
I'm just very fortunate that I'm able to do that. And I learnt that on the job. I learnt that I had that on the job.
Yeah. Do you still have time to do things like cutting or fittings.
Yeah. Yes, and I make sure that there's time. So for example, during the shows, when we're working on the show, I make sure that I'm involved in every single aspect of that. You have to make a choice of the things that you can do and you cannot do. And I'm very fortunate that I work with a team of people that I admire, respect, and love working with, and they do a magnificent job. And that's, I think, the key. I don't believe anybody does everything in totality, and I think it's making sure that you recognise clever people.
Woolmark, as you know, does an international competition.
Yes, yeah.
How difficult do you think it is for someone who's not Western to say, be chosen as a winner, and yet manage to continue to keep maybe an ethnic quality and yet able to sell things in the West?
Yes,
because as we know, it isn't like an artist in a garage staff. If you don't make money out of clothes, you're out of business.
Of course, there are challenges and hurdles. But I think that is just the reality of life, and that might be the hurdle there, but somebody educated in the West has a very different hurdle, whatever it might be. I think the important thing is to always stay close to your roots and make sure that it's your DNA that you put into your work, whilst being very conscious of different markets, different influences, but don't veer so far away that you lose your identity, because that's the most fundamental thing that you have.
Yes, it's your creativity.
Yeah, it's your creativity.
That's the one thing you've got. When I look at one of your shows, I think these are clothes that are actually meant to be worn.
When creativity and commerce come together, that's when it becomes magical. I absolutely see what we do as design and not art, and I think that's a big distinction for me. And design is about people having both an emotional reaction to something and also a very functional, pragmatic approach to something, because the world is changing, and new customers and millennials are actually really care about design and creativity, but they care about price and how things are made, and that's, for me, is kind of all commerce is making something relevant to people.
And it's also not having little boxes.
Yes.
You don't box people.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Christopher, thank you very much indeed for giving us your time. Thank you very, very much indeed for sharing your views and your advice, and I must say your wisdom with Woolmark.
Thank you, an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Colin.